So let's just start off with some basic questions. Have you seen our videos for the professor's interview line before? What did you think of them?
Yes, I have seen the videos you guys produced, and it was very interesting because getting to know the other faculty members in the different departments, and I like that.
Okay, so how does it feel being part of faculty interviews for the Comm department?
Oh, I think it's a fun opportunity. Hopefully it will help people learn a little bit about our department and our classes, and that they can kind of get to know the professors maybe a little bit more personal like.
Maybe we can start off with an introduction of you. So if you could introduce yourself and your role here at UAC, what you teach and your background basically.
I'm Dr. Junyoung Lee, the Assistant Professor of Journalism at the Department of Communication at the University of Uac의 campus. I worked for the broadcasting stations for about 10 years as the broadcast journalist, like a news reporter and a producer directors. And I have the PhD in mass communication, and I'm also the commercial pilot.
My name is Marisa Hill, and I've been here for 4.5 years at UAC의 campus, and I've been teaching communication in college for over 20 years. So it's really fun to be able to be here and have a different teaching experience than my experience in the US.
So what made you want to teach and be a professor?
Well, there was a chance for me to have a kind of a special lecture at a college when I was the television news reporter. And I realized that giving the knowledge and the skills that I have to the college students is really rewarding. So I believe that, I want to do this job later. So that's why I became the professor now.
So I changed my major in college 3 times. So I always tell students it's okay if you don't know right away what you want to do, or you take some classes and then you find out, maybe I like this area. And so when I was going through school, I actually thought that I might want to become a speechwriter because I was studying political rhetoric and public communication and campaigns and that sort of thing. And then I learned that the hours were sort of on call, and I decided that I didn't want to do that, but that I could still study in that area.
Let's move ahead to talking a little bit more focused on majors and classes. So what classes do you teach?
Where can students really interact with you?
Yeah, so typically I've taught in public communication area, and so I've taught classes like nonverbal communication and communication theory and philosophy and persuasion, rhetorical criticism, so those kinds of classes. But when we talked about what classes might be most helpful here at the UAC의 campus, we decided that public speaking would be a class that might be helpful for a lot of students for various reasons. And so here at UAC의 campus, I teach our public speaking course.
You mentioned that you had to change the way that you teach when you got here. So what is the difference that you've noticed?
Well, first of all, I had to adapt some of my maybe examples and things like that, because I realized, all of my examples are from that my students in the US might be more familiar with. So that was a good challenge for me to figure out how can I make my examples relevant to a different student body.
I teach normally the journalism courses like a Comm 60.
So what would you say is the best course for a student to take if they want to get a practical understanding of how the industry works?
Well, I think Comm 4520, which is a broadcast journalism course, because it's designed for the students who are interested in on-camera talent. So I teach students being in front of camera, like telling the stories naturally and confidently. That might be the course, which is the most practical course I'm teaching here.
What would you think is the most important thing when students are studying communication?
Well, I would say the critical thinking, critical mind is the most important thing. The communication students, after they graduate, the people giving the strategies like public relations or advertising, or some of them will be a kind of a journalist, so they will give any kind of an information to the people. So I do believe the critical mind, critical thinking is the most important thing.
I think teamwork, definitely. I feel like in communication department and classes, there's a lot of group projects, but even, all of you are doing this incredible group project, right? And so being able to communicate with your teammates is really important.
So Comm has a lot of overlap with other departments like marketing and film and business and advertising. In your opinion, what is the biggest difference between marketing in communication and marketing in business?
Oh, well, the focus is different between two of them. Marketing communication focuses on how messages crafted and conveyed and perceived by the audience through, effective storytelling and messaging. It's more about like a building relationship and engaging with the audience through the storytelling and the messaging. But the marketing and businesses focuses on the strategies that directly influences sales, market share, and profitability. So it's more about the commercial stuff, including, for P's, like pricing, product, place, and promotions, and the competitive analysis.
Do you have any special tips for students how to deal with the anxiety before class presentations or before any major exams?
First of all, that if you try to memorize or be really familiar with your first minute or so of what you want to talk about, then sometimes that can get you over that initial nervousness, and then you can settle in because you know the information, you've been practicing it, and so sometimes just being really familiar with the first 30 seconds or 1 minute can be helpful. And then I always tell my students to take a couple of really deep breaths before they get up, because usually our heart rate is going really fast, and so you can kind of maybe slow down your heart rate.
Talk to the friend technique. I learned this technique when I was the broadcast journalist. Just imagine that you're the reporter working for YTN. Normally its rating view is 2%, which means like 2.5 million people will watch you. So just imagine that the camera or the people in front of you, just imagine that they are a close person, like your family members, your friend, or your romantic partner. Then you'll be, assured and very confident without any kind of anxiety.
And then the other thing I tell students is that nervousness is not a bad thing, because sometimes it gives you a little bit of that nervous energy can translate into some positive energy when you're speaking with other people. And my students are always surprised when I tell them at the beginning of every semester, I'm nervous. Like I have been teaching for over 20 years, and the first day of class, I'm still nervous to go in. And that's because we care, right? We care about our students and we care about the experience. And so nerves are not necessarily a bad thing.
What strengths do students need to build on to get a job?
There are a bunch of the projects or contests offered by the company and government, like for the PR contest or advertising contest. So you can join the contest and to make the advertisement or PR events. So they will be such a great portfolio you can have.
What do you think about overseas employment in the communication department in UAC? Are there prospects, or have you seen examples of UAC alumni that are doing successfully out there?
Well, it's actually really hard for the international student to get a job in different countries, because you need to have the visa sponsor. For instance, in the United States, you need a H-1 visa sponsor. It's also difficult for any kind of majors. But there are graduates working in the real field in the United States, some of them working in IT companies like Tesla or some Korean IT companies, which is located in the United States. And also the others study in a graduate degree program to get a PhD degree. So we have successful graduates in the real industry field in the United States.
Just from your experience, how can students deal with an unexpected question in a job interview?
So actually today, in our class today, we did sort of a mock job interviews. And so they have impromptu speeches throughout the semester. And so today's topic was interview. So I just asked them random questions and they just had to answer on the spot without preparation. And so couple of the things that I told them is just be thinking about your own experiences, maybe some things that you've had to go through, successes or struggles. And then when you get that question, then you can figure out a way to tie those in. So you already have some ideas.
So it was just like surprised that you have a random question at the interview with the class. It's like
That's how my students, that's how they felt today too when I told them.
random questions in the class.
And they had to click this
That's insane.
spinner thing on the computer, and then it just landed on a number,
Oh.
and that was their question.
Oh.
They were all really nervous, but they did good, and they couldn't have done that at the beginning of the semester, but they all did pretty well.
Okay, so let's move on to the game section of the interview.
The 깻잎 debate is very popular amongst youngsters and I think even older generations. What is your opinion about
Well, helping others have their sesame leaf kimchi. I think it's really nice. Okay. Because it's based on the generosity and kindness of the human being, right? But I would say if my romantic partner does not like it, then I will not do that. Okay. So that's my answer.
But you won't get jealous if they do it for someone else?
I'm kind of a generous person, so it's totally fine.
What if it's really handsome person?
That's another part. So should I say it depends on the person's appearance? Well, I do believe my romantic partner, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I've never heard about this debate before. So people might be jealous. Is that the thing? about
Yeah.
it? That's so interesting. I was trying to think of something that we have similar in the United States. I don't know if we have anything like that.
Maybe I can give you like a good parallel.
Okay.
Your romantic partner were to gift their jacket to your friend who's cold.
Oh, okay.
Would you be okay with that?
Well, I mean, ideally you would have as good trust with your partner, and it would be no problem, right? That he's being very generous or kind and noticing other people. I probably would think about it that way.
Like, I have a question. So the friends that your husband just gave the shrimp or the sesame, she is like gorgeous.
Yeah, like supermodel.
Like,
Would you get jealous?
yeah.
Should I be jealous?
like,
Am I like,
influencer.
oh no, am I not being jealous enough? I don't know. I don't think I would be jealous about that.
That's the answer.
Yeah. So what would you say is more important in marriage? Communication or appearance? You just mentioned that if it's more handsome.
Oh, that's right. But there's a Korean saying that the appearance does not last long, okay? It does not last forever. So definitely communication should be first for having a good relationship, I have to say.
Well, of course, I have to say communication, right? As a communication professor, but I really honestly do think that communication is just vital to a relationship. And I mean, you think about the relationships that you have that are your closest relationships, that usually they're people that you communicate with the most or that know the most about you. And that sharing of information and being able to have that understanding between each other is how we form our relationships.
Teach only morning classes or teach only evening classes?
Well, I'm kind of an early bird person, so I prefer teaching morning courses. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of students are being late a lot.
I think I would like morning overnight classes because I love dinner. I love eating. So, nights out at eating some really delicious Korean food. So I'd have to say morning.
Do you think students would agree? Would you rather have each student turn in 30-page or have them do a 200 for you to grade? That's the important
That's the
part.
hard thing, right? Because I feel like grading is maybe the hardest part about being a teacher. It takes so much time, especially if you want to give good feedback. But I would have to say, as a teacher, I would probably prefer the 30 page paper, because I feel like a 30-page paper tells me a lot more about the student, and I think a 200 question test tells you a lot more about the professor. I think our responsibility is to, get to know the students.
Well, I think my students taking Comm 1130, which is the media writing, can answer to these questions, because I give students tons of the writing assignments and also tons of the quiz questions. So actually, I normally give students both of them. Okay. I do believe, the writing assignment and quiz questions are needed to, evaluate their knowledge and skills, and also to update the communication skills.
What kind of advice would you like to leave UAC students, Comm students with?
First of all, you're going to have some challenges in university, and that is part of the path of growing. And so if you get there, don't be discouraged. When you listen to people, really successful people, talk about their experiences or their journeys, they will almost always be talking about their struggles or their challenges. I just think as long as you continue to kind of work towards those things, those experiences, that will be your whole journey, right? That's going to be the total of your story, is all of those ups and downs.